Welcome back, everybody. I'm pretty sure we all know that not all rifles are made the same. We have some that are on the very budget end of the spectrum and some that are extremely expensive. And there could be a lot of reasons behind that. Everything from the cost of raw materials, the quality of those materials, the quality control that goes into it, and of course all of the extra options or machine time or extra work that goes into sometimes the looks and coatings and all of that stuff. What we're going to talk about today is how do you kind of tune this in. Maybe if you're a little overgassed, we will touch on being undergassed as well. When it comes to your regular maintenance, whether you do that maintenance weekly, monthly, annually, depending on how much you're using this thing out there. But we're going to go in order from cheapest to most expensive and then talk about the worst case scenario of what you may have to do should you be undergassed, overgassed, and the level of parts you might want to try out. And these things are going to be optional for the most part. Some manufacturers build their stuff overgassed on purpose. Maybe they're going to be used in austere environments. Maybe they want it to run on all types of ammo. Some ammo is less powerful than others. And then sometimes they do it because it's just the cheapest route to get less complaints. Other manufacturers will tune that thing in beautifully for you, but it might not run on cheaper ammo. This is going to be really geared towards those things that are a little bit overgassed, or maybe not necessarily overgassed, but have left you a little bit of room to calm it down and tune it in to your liking. And again, 9 times out of 10, you can do this with manufacturer parts during your annual, weekly, monthly maintenance. Now we are going to go over these, but I need you to understand what each of these pieces are and how they work. So since I don't have cool computer graphics, we're going to do redneck science here with my cool items for display, which is going to be barrel, gas block, gas tube, bolt and carrier group, and of course, the back end of the business, buffer and buffer spring. So if you don't know anything about this platform and how it works, the bullet goes down the barrel. Underneath the gas block right here, there is a hole. That hole allows gas to go up into the gas block and travel backwards through the gas tube. The size of that hole in the barrel determines how much gas makes it through that gas tube, along with a little bit what is called dwell time. Now, if you don't know what dwell time is, that's basically the time between when that projectile passes the gas port and leaves the muzzle. This period right here is going to also determine how much gas is going to make it back down that gas tube. And it can have something to do as well with pressures, ammo types, and things like that. But this is really nuts and bolts. Once that gas makes it down that gas tube, it's going to interface with the gas key, which is this part right here. So as that gas pushes back, it's going to push on that gas key, go down into the gas rings, and it's going to blow the bolt back. As it does that, you have your cycle of operation. Once that gas is fully expent, what that bolt is going to do is push on the front of the buffer, and that's going to compress the buffer spring. Now that really helps control how fast the bolt is moving. The weight of these options will control how fast it's moving and what that felt recoil is going to feel like. I know that was pretty basic, but I think a lot of people maybe don't understand kind of how all of that stuff works in conjunction with each other. And it doesn't help you to show you all of these parts installed on something when you really need to see them separately. All right, so what does overgassed or undergassed mean? I'm going to throw a chart up here that's basically a clock position. And this is how you can semi-diagnose maybe some gas problems. If your shell casings are deflecting way forward, you're probably overgassed. If they're deflecting dang near straight back, you're probably undergassed. If they're deflecting pretty much straight out the side or maybe a little bit to the back, you're probably right in that sweet spot, and that's where we all want to be. Now, being undergassed means you're not going to run right. You got to lighten things up. Now, being overgassed, on the other hand, means you're going to add a lot more wear and tear to the gas ring and all the parts in there, and you might not run right because you can be so overgassed that that shell is not going to make it out the front. It's going to bang off that receiver so hard it could go right back in there and cause a malfunction, as can be an undergas. So you've got to know what this thing is doing, whether you're overgassed, undergassed, or maybe you just need a good solid cleaning. Now, during that maintenance, what do we do to fix all this? And we're going to start with the cheapest option first. So if you are slightly overgassed, what you can start with is a spring. Now, generally, this is going to be the cheapest option. There are very expensive buffer tube spring setups that you can use, but this, for example, is a Blackout Defense spring, and it just has a little bit of a more powerful rating to it. So it's gonna help as that bolt flies back to slow it down and slow that process down so you don't have that rapid hard ejection, that hard feel. It doesn't slow the gas or the amount of gas, it just helps control all of that inertia coming back from the bolt. Now, generally these can range anywhere from 15 to 50 bucks, depending on if you want flat wire, braided. There's all kinds of different options, but I'll have some of that stuff at the build list and you can check it out. Now, next up from that is going to be your buffer. Now, these come in a range of weights, from carbine to heavy, heavy 2, heavy 3, and they even have like super heavy options. Now, basically how that's determined, there's just different weights on the inside of this thing, and they're factory parts. So you can actually buy them from, this one happens to be a Daniel Defense one. You can buy them in H1, H2, H3 carbine, or whatever else you need that you feel is appropriate for what you are dealing with. These things can run anywhere from 20 to like 75 bucks for the really high-end kind of adjustable versions. If you can stick with the manufacturer one, stick with the manufacturer's one. Now, the difference in how the spring and the bolt kind of help out the gas operation or slow it down or calm it down, the spring just adds tension in a reverse fashion when you think about it, because you're compressing the spring under the cycle of operation, whereas the bolt is adding weight, which is going to slow that bolt down. So there's a little bit of a difference between those two, but generally a lot of things will just feel a lot better with a little bit more spring power to it. Now, the last option here is the most expensive of the three, but these are all options that require no gunsmithing, no tools. You just throw them in and you go to work. And like I said, generally you can buy them all from the manufacturer and do it during annual maintenance. Now, this is all going to depend on how much beans you fed that thing, right? How gassy is that rifle per se? The last option is going to be an actual bolt and carrier group. I'll roll in some footage here so you can see the difference, but some bolts have less material in them. They're lightweight bolts. You may have one of those from the factory and it just may not have enough weight to it. So if you've already done a spring and a buffer and there's no other problems going on, it may be time to look at the bolt and see if the bolt is one of the ones that is lightened up. Now, in this video here, you can actually see what a lighter weight bolt kind of looks like. You know, it's got a little bit of a scalloped out end to it. Now, there are other bolts out there that are complete Gucci and skeletonized and all kinds of stuff that are really used for custom tuned setups, when most times these kind of factory mil-spec bolts like this are going to be the ones most of us are going to want to stick with, maybe get a nice coating on it. Now, what happens if you've done all of those and you're still overgassed? Unfortunately, it's tool time. Not like Tim Taylor tool time. It's time for you to break out the tools or to go to a licensed armor or smith, because you're going to probably have to look into doing something like changing the gas block, putting an adjustable gas block on there, or even getting a gas tube that has a smaller inner diameter, allowing less gas to flow through the system. Those are your more expensive things because you're going to have the cost of parts and cost of installation, unless you're good enough to do that stuff yourself. But those are generally the last options I look at, unless I'm building something from the ground up, in which case I might do an adjustable gas block. Now, when it comes down to being overgassed or undergassed, here's how you can look at it. It's easier to calm things down than it is to pick them up, because if that gas port is severely small, you can't really drill it out to make it bigger. You're gonna have to lighten everything up. And some people, even competitive shooters, like that because it allows them to use lighter weight stuff in there all around for less felt recoil. For most of us out there, we're gonna be on the either probably really close to right or overgas side, and we're gonna wanna bring that calmness into play rather than try to bring gas up. Now, for those of you that are undergassed, you just do all of these in reverse, not necessarily reverse in the order, but reverse in the power and weight ratings. You can get a lighter spring, you can get a lighter buffer, and you can get a lighter bolt. That's kind of how you fix something that is severely undergassed. I really hope that helped you out. None of this stuff is rocket science. These things are basically Legos for adults. And with a little bit of knowledge, or even just watching a couple YouTube videos, you can pretty much figure these things out. Now, if you're running into severe catastrophic problems with this thing, you're probably gonna need to take it to an armorer. But these parts that drop in are generally made by the manufacturer and can be replaced during maintenance that the manufacturer suggests at certain time frames. You can pretty much get these things done yourself. The one thing I will tell you is don't overdo it. Remember, you don't want to undergas or overgas to the point where you're going to be causing too much wear and tear. Now, when I'm trying to bring calmness into play, calm that thing down, I do my testing while it's very dirty, because that's going to add the most amount of friction, the most opportunity for failure. If it's pristine clean, it may run great that way, but then when you get it really dirty, you could cause some problems. So I would say when you're doing this testing one way or the other, run her dirty, see what happens. You guys get subbed up, get belled up. And if you liked the video, give it a like if you thought it was helpful. Let me know what problems you have run into with your rifles or custom builds, because all of us run into issues from time to time. And some of us may not want to admit it, but it happens. You guys get out there, have some fun on the range. Remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Yes, that's only a bolt in my hand. I'll see you guys on the next one.